poplar trees.
Santana stated, quote, "I know it sounds new age, but in my meditation, this entity, which is called Metatron, he said, we want to hook you back to the radio airwave frequency. We want to reach junior high schools, and universities." Carlos Santana said that these spirits, which as we shall see in a little bit, were actually devils, had supernaturally brought different musicians to him and worked in the musical arena to bring them all together for this Landside album appropriately called Supernatural. Santana said, "I heard this entity wanted me to know I would be hooked up with the right writers, musicians, and producers for the purpose of reaching high school and college kids, so my inner instructions were clear." He said that Eric Clapton wanted to know if he could play on the album. He said all the people who played on the record said that they had heard my music before I called them, or that I appeared to them in dreams or something. Santana said they knew what was coming before they got the call. Santana admits that he is channeling music from the same spirit entities that used Jimi Hendrix, who himself claimed to be demon-possessed. He said, quote, "There is an invisible radio that Jimi Hendrix and Coltrane tuned into, and when you go there, you start channeling other music." Santana told Rolling Stone magazine, quote, "You meditate and you got the candles, you got the incense, and you've been chanting, and all of a sudden you hear this voice, write this down." Santana described receiving information from the spirit world like a human fax machine.
He sat me down and he told me that he had done his meditations and that he had spoken with his wife and that he had spoken with the angels, and they had come to him and they had told him that this is what he needed to do.
Santana's angels are really devils who are using Santana to communicate Satan's age-old lie.
Yeah, I want to get tapped into what he's doing.
And what you're going to see with regard to Jimi Hendrix is that not only did he admit to being demon-possessed, but he admitted that his music had just come out of him, and that it affected other people because these demons were using his music. And Jimi Hendrix, even decades after he died, Rolling Stone put him on the front cover of one of their magazines and touted him as the greatest guitarist of all time. He's still regarded that way. And in VH1's countdown of best artists, he made the top 5. But what you're about to see is that Jimi Hendrix was really not Jimi Hendrix. The power of Jimi Hendrix was a demon spirit, or more than one demon spirit, using him and channeling music through him, even as we saw earlier with Carlos Santana, who spoke of channeling the same music that Jimi Hendrix does. Let's check out this clip and see what happened in the 60s through music. Jimi Hendrix, who claimed to be a voodoo child, stated, quote, "Things like witchcraft, which is a form of exploration and imagination that have been banned by the establishment and called evil, is because people are frightened to find out the full power of the mind." The satanic powers Hendrix unleashed through his music, though, were absolutely destructive. Jimi Hendrix opened himself up to demonic beings who used him to initiate the hippie youth into the counterculture revolution. Alan Douglas, the executive curator of Hendrix's musical estate, admitted his spirit possession.
Now, one of the biggest things about Jimmy was what he believed, and he believed that he was possessed by some spirit, and I got to believe it myself, and that's what we had to deal with all the time. And he was very humble about discussing it with people because he didn't want people to feel like he was being pretentious and so on, but he really believed it, and he was wrestling with it constantly.
Jimi Hendrix's live-in girlfriend, Fane Pridgeon, also spoke of Hendrix's admission to being demon-possessed and related his demon possession to the reception of his music.
He used to always talk about some devil or something was in him, you know, and he didn't have any control over it. He didn't know what made him act the way he acted and what made him say the things he said, and songs and different things like that just come out of him, you know. But at first I used to think it was a cop-out when he had really done me in, right? And he'd say, "I don't know what come over me, you know. I really can't understand it." And, you know, he used to just, you know, grab his hair or something, or pull his hair and just stand in the mirror or cry or something. Oh, Lord, it was so sad when he would cry. Maybe he was the first man, or maybe the only man that I've ever seen cry, you know, but it just killed me when he cried, because he felt like, it seems like to me he was so tormented and just torn apart, and like he really was upset possessed, you know, with something really evil, you know. And he said, you know, like, you're from Georgia, you know, he said, I should know how, you know, people drive demons out. He actually thought about, you know, if we ever go, because I used to talk about my grandmother and all her weird stuff, you know, and he used to talk about us going down there and having some root lady or somebody see if she could drive this demon out of him.
Make a whole lot of money. Gonna be big here.
Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Blood on the leaves.
And your stairway lies on the whispering wind. Backwards it says, because I live with Satan. Listen carefully. The demons lift up, because this isn't Led Zeppelin, this is spiritism, and spirits working through Robert Plant. Backwards they lift up the backwards path. Backwards it says, here's to my sweet Satan. Did you hear that? Listen carefully. It says, I want to live it backwards, like the Zepp, whose power is Satan. Did you hear that? Then it says, he will give you 666. Raise your hands if you heard that. Okay, it's quite obvious. It's quite clear. Stairway to Heaven is actually laced with backwards satanic messages. We are talking about words that say one thing forward, and then when those same words are played backwards, there is yet another intelligible message. This satanic phenomena goes far beyond the scope of human ingenuity and is demonically inspired. Bob Garcia of A&M Records stated, quote, "It must be the devil, because nobody here knows how to do it." Here we see Robert Plant, while singing Stairway to Heaven, telling his fans that sometimes words have two meanings, as he signs with his hands that they are both forward and backward.
There's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure, 'cause you know sometimes words have two meanings.
Group Led Zeppelin came crashing down after the sudden and unexpected death of their drummer, John Bonham. Zeppelin, who sang about having hellhounds on their trail, met with many bizarre tragedies before their ultimate demise. In 1975, both Robert Plant and his former wife, Maureen, were severely injured in an almost fatal car accident in the Island of Rhodes. Rock journalist Gary Herman, in his book Rock and Roll Babylon, noted the strange course of events that had come to be known as the Zeppelin Curse, picking it up in 1976.
And as we talked, the band leader says, "How long have you fellas been involved with sorcery?" And he shocked us a little bit, and I said, "Exactly what do you mean?" "Well," he said, "you know, what you people are doing, talking to supposed spirits of the dead." He says, this is silly.
And this man had been at the seance with you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he's telling you that it's silly what you've just done.
Because see, my wife, he says, goes to the seances because she gets comfort and she gets something good out of it, good feeling out of it. And she lives for what the spirits, are going to see that the future is going to be like. To me, he says, I can't bother with this stuff. He says, I want power, I go right to the source of power. And he says, how do you think that I became famous the way that I am? Well, I said, you must have had some good luck. Well, he says, there's no such thing as good luck. He says, there's either some power working for you somewhere, or you don't get it. He said, the supposed spirits of the dead that you're talking with are demon spirits, your fallen angels. The medical doctor was telling us how he was making operations that had never been made before because people had to be awake, yet have no feeling. He was able to, carry on the surgeries that had not been done before. But the spirits would give that capacity to be able to operate without even feeling anything. And also without no problem with the blood, because as he would cut his incision, because the incision, everything open with no blood running. So he could do the work that has not been done before.